very much when we started our relationship, I was still in the mindset of I need somebody who's going to come change my life and make my life better.
Yeah. The fact that you were coming in and just like wrecking ball these achievements for me, I was pissed, and it's hurtful.
Is I think in a relationship, there will always be kind of this like, what are you doing? Right?
Hello, and welcome to That's Not What I Said. This is our weekly episode where we talk about our trials and tribulations as a couple and as a family. I'm Trent.
I'm Emily.
And thank you for joining us. So, babe, I'm gonna turn this one off to you because this is the one that has been hitting our family hard this week.
Yeah. And I want to thank you, babe. So, I think I want to set it up by saying it's what's known as princess syndrome, right? Mm-hmm. And this goes back to the beginning of our relationship and how I entered the relationship, not fully aware of how I was coming across, right? Mm-hmm. And I was a princess, and I don't think I was the most extreme form of a princess.
No, not at all.
But I definitely was suffering from princess syndrome where, my entire life I had been sort of built up as, I was well loved.
Yeah.
I was the oldest grandchild. I was the oldest daughter. And then also I grew up in an era, I identified heavily with Disney princesses. I very much fantasized about a husband one day, like delivering the life to me that I thought I deserved.
And you had said stuff that to me, like oh, you were exactly the man I envisioned, the prince I envisioned.
Well, yes. So what I realize now is like even going through when I was in college, right? Like a lot of people didn't expect me to go to college. A lot of people just expected me to get married right out of college.
Yeah.
And which speaks to the culture I grew up in too, right? Heavy military, heavy religious culture. And then when I was going to college, it was like, oh yeah, but you're only going to college until you get married, right? And then it was like when I chose economics as my major, everyone was like, what is she doing? And it's like, oh, that's so hard. Why would you choose such a hard major? Why don't you, you should drop out and do XYZ. That's an easier, more female-oriented activity, right? And just all throughout my life, it's been like, I'm too fragile to do something. This is the expectation I should have for life. People are putting this on me or telling me this, right? Yeah. And it really wasn't until like a couple of things happened. I think, we started dating.
Yeah.
And you kind of were very much someone who was not going to have expectations placed on you that you weren't going to put on yourself. Right?
Of course. Yes.
And then also,
I need to agree to whatever expectations you have.
Yes.
I absolutely need to agree to those.
Yes. And that was like the first time I kind of experienced somebody standing up and going like, hey, wait, you're expecting me to provide for you and like make your life happen. Like, what are you doing to make your life happen?
Yeah.
It was the very first time anyone, and I had dated a lot. I had been in long-term relationships.
Yeah.
The first time anyone was like, whoa, hold on. What are you contributing?
Yeah.
And then the second thing that kind of happened after we started dating is I had a professional encounter at work where, I had a director title at the time. I'm having a meeting. And I have a degree in economics.
Yep.
And I'm talking about how smart my brothers are. And my brothers are very smart.
Sure, yeah.
But this woman I'm talking to, she's like, oh, cool. Like, what do your brothers do? So I'm talking about what my brothers do. And
She's like, what the hell?
yeah. And at the time, they were...
Why are you bragging about your brothers? Yeah.
They weren't at the same level that I was at the time in their careers, right? I love them. They weren't there.
Yeah.
And she's like, well, wait a minute. You have a degree in economics and you are an operations director.
Yeah.
You're smart.
Yeah.
She was like, you're smart.
Yeah.
Why are you talking about your brothers being smart? You're smart. You should be talking about yourself.
Yeah.
And my mind was blown because I just always was raised in a narrative that like, oh, these boys are so smart. The boys around me are so smart. Yeah. And it was something I could only like dream of being, because there was a level of like frailty or needed protection around me.
Yeah.
That like they were the strong ones. They were the smart ones. And I love my brothers.
Sure,
I'm not trying to offend them. Absolutely. They are smart. They are strong.
Yes.
But I'm smart and strong too.
Absolutely.
And that was a narrative I had never had about myself. I had always had, I'm pretty. I have big boobs, and that's great. And I can do like fun artistic things. I'm very artistic.
Yeah.
And I'm nice. And I just never had that smart or strong or like strategic narrative about myself until that moment.
Which you are completely those things.
Now I realize that, right?
Yeah.
And it's been years and years of pulling the layers away to understand that about myself and to rewrite my own narrative for myself. But very much when we started our relationship, I was still in the mindset of I need somebody who's going to come change my life and make my life better.
Yeah.
And they get the benefit of me being pretty,
Yeah. And it manifests in our relationship today.
Yeah, and I think the early years, like it did such a negative. It put such a negative lens on certain situations in our relationship that we're still dealing with the fallout of it. Because we're not dealing with the same situation now.
Sure.
But what we dealt with this week was the fallout of that situation, right?
Yeah.
And the hurt that was incurred because of those situations early on, right?
Yeah.
So that's what I wanted to talk about today is that, how as a society, like the Prince syndrome definitely exists too, right? Sure. But I think more prevalently, it's women are fragile, women need to be saved, and women believe these things, right?
Yeah.
We need a man to come in or a partner to come in and provide to change our life.
But then also, when we don't fulfill your version of that scenario, your version of that narrative,
right?
You're disappointed, and so for you took it out on me,
and
you've taken it on me on a few times, and that's what led to. So we had an argument last night because this narrative has come up a few times, and where I say, hey, those are your expectations. I'm doing the best I can.
Yeah.
I'm providing for our family.
Yeah.
And I don't want this to turn a fight, but there was times when you said, well, what are you doing for me?
No, that's definitely the princess viewpoint, right?
Exactly. And I was like, what are you talking about? Like, and this was when we first started dating. So like a first year and a half of us dating, and you were living with me. You weren't paying any bills or mortgage, or I was covering all the household costs. You were covering your own bills, like your insurance and your car payment, but I was covering everything.
Right.
else.
I was not paying rent to live with you.
And I had my own house, but I remember and I was so furious. I was like, what do you mean? What am I doing for you? And then you said, what are you doing for me? And what are you doing with your life? And I was a district director at the time, and I was doing.
It was not a fine moment.
I just got my master's degree in public administration from USC. like I'm on top of the world. I have my own house. Like I'm killing
Yeah.
it. And you're living with me. And the fact that you were challenging me is just like blew my mind. I was like, what the hell? Like,
Yeah. And I don't even remember like the specifics of the argument, but
yeah.
obviously it was an out of line comment, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And I did have like expectations of like, oh no, like he should be doing XYZ
Yeah.
things that you weren't doing. But that goes back to like I had this image in my head of like, oh, this is what I deserve in life
Yeah.
because of, me being a female, and somebody's going to come in and sweep me off my feet and give me this beautiful life.
Yeah.
And we were having a lot of fun together.
We
were
were.
good friends. But you weren't doing the prince. You weren't like my knight in shining armor kind of situation.
I wasn't looking for a princess.
Of course you weren't, right?
No, I was looking for someone who
You were
was as hardworking and as ready to like tackle life as I was.
Yes, and I think that's the big thing that I was like, holy shit! Like this really sets like, it sets women up for failure in so many ways to have that narrative that somebody is going to come and change their life, right?
And if it happens, sure, that's great. It should. We should absolutely, in a partnership, we should absolutely be lifting each other up.
But we should be doing it equally together.
Yes.
Right?
Or in different, equally, but in different ways.
Yes.
Yes.
And in a lot of ways, like I see how I was waiting. I was absolutely waiting. Even though I'm going to school, like I'm doing things, I did not invest in myself as hard as I should have because I was looking for that prince, that knight in shining armor. And the person who is always the knight in shining armor in the movies, in real life, that like go-getter, successful, like doing great in life guy, he doesn't want a partner who has been sitting around waiting to be found.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to pluck somebody out of obscurity and integrate them into his life.
No.
He wants somebody who has shared interests and goals and who is equally ambitious and will contribute as an equal partner.
Yes, absolutely.
And that's who I wasn't becoming, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's who I only learned to become in my 30s.
Yeah.
And so that's where I was like, I have been totally gypped by this narrative because I wanted this in my head and I didn't become the person who that man wants.
Yeah.
And so
how do you see it coming out in our relationship? Because I know my version of how I see it coming out in our relationship, and I've kind of already said a little bit of that, but how do you see it coming out in our relationship?
Well, I think for us, as much fun as we were having in the early years, I think it also, poisoned a few bits of those early years, right?
Yeah.
And
I feel bad because there's times when I've said hurtful things to you in response where I'm like, so one thing I said to you that was hurtful and I don't agree with it now, but I meant it at the time was I was like, if I leave the relationship, my life is still the same or goes up.
Yeah.
Nothing in my life changes. And that was really, for me, I was like, what is Emily bringing to the table? If my life is either plateaued or going down.
Yeah.
If you're in it, and those were hard times in our life.
Yeah. And I think there was it's a miracle we're still together. And I think we're still together because at the end of
we have this dialogue and we talk.
Right. And that's the thing is I think we have a basis of friendship.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like at the end of the day, like I truly feel like you're my best friend.
Absolutely.
Whenever something happens, you're the first person I want to call and share it with. You're
all.
also No, I call my mom second.
Okay.
Usually because I can't get a hold of you first. So she ends up being first.
Okay.
But you're also somebody who I run to for comfort.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And I think we got through to where we are now because we have the friendship first.
Yeah.
And what I didn't understand early on in my 20s as a teenager, I didn't understand the friendship piece.
Yeah.
I didn't understand that you're not supposed to look for somebody who can come and change your life. Mm-hmm. It's somebody who you can just do life with.
And that's where, and I think that's where a lot of, from my perspective, and a lot of men I know, that's where we, for the most part, I mean, we change, we grow, we mature.
Yes.
We're still 16-year-old boys. We're still immature. At our core, we're still 16 to 18-year-old boys. Uh-huh. And so I know a lot of people like, I mean, it's a very typical cliche thing to hear, but women are trying to change men. And it's like, no, we're who we are for the most part. Mm-hmm. We'll grow and mature, and we can heal from our childhood wounds.
Yeah.
And we can do these things that
you've
make
grown
us
a lot since we've been together too.
Where we can progress. But,
Yeah.
and that was one of the things where I was happy in my life, in my trajectory. Mm-hmm. And it was just always seemed like you were just, if we weren't having fun, you were dissatisfied in many ways.
Yeah.
And you were in like the house remodel. Like when I first moved to my house, I did a clean sweep of it, remodeled a bunch of stuff, but the kitchen was still undone.
Yeah.
And you were only living with me for like a year, and you were like, well, what are we doing to remodel our kitchen? And I remember some of my girlfriends were like, what do you mean that's Trent's kitchen? Like,
yeah.
What do you mean? What are we doing? Like,
I think I think maybe too, like I felt such a comfort with you, like right off the bat.
And I wanted you to. I wanted you to.
No, and I think you felt a comfort with me too.
Absolutely, I did. Yeah.
But I think because of that, we overstepped sometimes, right?
Yeah.
In that comfort. And like we treated each other in ways as if we had been together 5 years when we'd only been together a year.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And so our friends looking at it from the outside were like, what is, going on?
Yeah.
But again, like I appreciate that you held your boundary in terms of like, I can't have that burden placed on me. I will not have that burden placed on me. That you knew yourself well enough to say like, I understand, like when I had the kids, right? Mm-hmm. And I really wanted to be a stay-at-home mom.
I know you did.
But it was really not a feasible financial situation for us.
Yeah.
And I don't think in the long run.
And we weren't married at the time. We'd only been together 2 years.
Right. We weren't married. We'd been together 2 years.
When our first child was born, I think it was like literally just
like
before
the 2 year mark.
The 2 year mark, exactly.
Yeah. It really
from date one
happened fast. Yeah. And but I think that was a really smart decision because I think things would have gone worse if I was financially dependent on you and you were already feeling like that was a burden you maybe got pushed into, right?
Yeah.
And that's where I'm thankful that you stood your ground because also like now I've been able to accelerate in my career and that's been wonderful and it's been good for our family.
And I still covered like all the expenses.
We cover equal parts of the expenses,
at that
right?
time though.
Oh, at that time.
We didn't start covering equal expenses until a year ago.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, it's hard too, like when I'm on maternity leave. And
sure. But the point was like, I was covering all the expenses for our family, for our new family. We weren't married.
Yeah. It was rough.
And there were some rough patches.
It was rough.
And so for me, I was like, all right, I'm doing my responsibility. I'm doing the thing I need to do to make sure that I protect the woman I love, my child, the mother of my child.
Yeah.
And then there was just like, it was like all these pressures. And I was just like, what the hell, man?
Yeah. Yeah. But I'm glad. So here's the thing is I know it caused a lot of fights early on, but I'm glad you said something because I know a lot of people who wouldn't have said anything
yeah.
and would have silently stewed. And it
Well,
would
those are
have,
people who end up in divorce.
well, that's the thing is it would have boiled up at some point and then
Yeah.
you would have been really frustrated and really over it.
And we,
And I'm glad that we had the
Yeah.
opportunity to fight it out in the moment.
yeah.
Because while it wasn't pleasant to have those fights, they were necessary. And I heard you, right? And I
Yeah.
understood where you were coming from. And I think ultimately you heard whatever I needed in the moment.
Yeah.
And we were able to come to some sort of resolution in the moment rather than letting it spiral out of control.
Yeah.
But I think the thing that sucks about it is that you remember very vividly.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't.
You were throwing like low, hard blows, and I was like,
And-
all right, this is
Yeah.
forever I'll remember these.
And not to
Four
discount
specific fights.
not to discount some of the behaviors in those early years, but also we were very early in our relationship having babies, which meant my hormones were like,
I know they were, babe.
and I just don't remember a lot of it, and you do. And
Yeah.
so like now what happens is like this week we were talking about like what started the fight was ambition,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
And
you tell me I'm not ambitious enough. Let's be specific.
Okay. And I'm sorry I said that. But what it turned into was like, well, in 2014, you said this.
I know, but
And that's opening that wound.
but it was 2014 and then 2018 and then 2021 you said the same things.
This comment now is opening those old wounds,
Absolutely.
right? And so that's where like I wish I had the luxury to remember because that comes in quite useful sometimes, but also sometimes I wish you would forget a little bit more.
No, I try, babe. I try. I truly do try. But so this, I think for me, where it comes down to with the princess syndrome and where it really hurts us, me as a man, as a father, as a provider, regardless of it's just the counterpoint partner, whoever it is, male or female, I don't care. Where it hurts us, where it hurts me is I'm doing great. Well, like, yes, I did all these things. I followed the formula. The formula was successful for me. I went to college. I was in the Army. I went to college. I got my master's degree. I was thoughtful and very strategic with my my career because I went and did very specific internships. I got a house. So anyways, so the fact that you were coming in and just like wrecking ball these achievements for me, I was like, I was pissed and it's hurtful. And so now when you, not to the same degree you've done in the past, but now when you're like, you're not ambitious enough, you could be making twice as much and you're not providing for our family the way you should be because you're not ambitious enough.
That's not what I'm saying though.
But that's what you are.
When I said that I wanted you to be more ambitious, it had everything to do with, and this is another thing that we could write like a whole podcast about, right? Is that you are so talented.
Sure.
And
in specific areas, yes.
Yes. And I just would love to see you be able to reach the pinnacle of everyone recognize the pinnacle of that talent.
And
right?
I will. I don't doubt that I will. But I got laid off last year. That set me down
and I recognize that. I recognize that.
And that's where I'm like, hey, you know what? Okay, cool. I got laid off. Set me down a couple rungs.
Yeah.
I'm still trying to I'm doing my best at my current role.
Yes.
I'm excelling. People are recognizing me. I have no doubt about my future potential. I have no doubt about my current potential. So when you question that and you put it back on me, again, it goes back to that old critique of, well, what are you doing for me?
Yeah. And
And I'm like,
I
I'm
see
doing
that.
everything I can for you. I'm doing everything I can for the family. But at the same time, like, I'm not a job hopper.
Yeah.
When I'm in a
Yeah.
good role, I stay in a good role. I do my best in it. Then when the time is right, I do move.
Yeah.
Either they promote me up or I leave and promote myself up.
Yeah. And I think that's where, like, it's just a difference in our styles, right?
Yeah.
And so that's but I think the important thing is that, like, you're doing the best you can in this moment,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You're truly giving it your all in this moment, and I am too.
Yeah.
And so
But I'm not critical of you, though.
but here's the thing is, like, generally, like, when people are critical of each other, like, we need to be mindful that it's like, maybe your partner is doing the best that they can, and maybe you shouldn't be so critical. But, like, it took us having that conversation for me to be reminded
Yeah.
of that, you know?
Yeah.
So,
And that's where, like, I feel like I said, for a lot of the counterpoint partners, we're doing our best. Like, and I know for, like, a lot of men I know, like, we're I have the luxury where I don't have to go in at 5 a.m, work
right.
my ass off all day, and then get told off by a partner that, hey, what are you doing to provide for our family? Joneses down the street have a new Mercedes. They're going to Europe
Yeah.
on a vacation.
Yeah.
What are you doing to give me that?
Yeah. And that's a dangerous thing too, right? Is like keeping up with the Joneses, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, there is a time for vacation, but a vacation within your means.
Yeah.
And so, like, this week you said to me, you said you take clients in your car and you're not ashamed of that. And I was like, it's the best I could do. I keep my car clean. I keep it tidy. It's older. It's a 2013 Nissan Altima.
No.
But
You are misrepresenting the situation in the comment there.
hold on.
Yeah.
But you said you're not ashamed of bringing people in this car, and I said no. It's all I've got. It's all I can do.
No, that's different. That's different. And that is sidetracking from this current conversation.
No, but it's still, for
no.
me though, it's still along the same thread, because you're saying you can't afford another car.
No, that is absolutely not what I was saying.
That is what you were saying.
No, it's that your car had kid shit in the back seat.
Yes, I have kids.
Yes.
I don't leave like crap in the back seat. I tidy it up.
Okay, that was a clarification that was not made in the moment, because that's what I was talking about, is the mounds of kid shit in the back seat.
There was other things that led into that, like, you need to get a new car, and I told you I can't afford a new car right now.
Yes, we have had the conversation about you needing a new car. You need a new car. Your car is on its last leg.
I don't think it's on its last leg, but it's getting there, but it's still go ahead.
And I also have offered my car, which is slightly nicer and doesn't have mounds of kid shit in the back seat. We can still keep things clean and tidy without having them be brand new.
Yes, absolutely.
That's what that's about.
But again, when you're saying all these things, it's one more thing. It's one more thing that is like, okay,
but
I don't have a new car.
That's not what princess syndrome.
But that's what led into the conversation, though, is why don't you buy a new car? And I said, I can't afford a new car right now.
No. That's completely different, because that's about putting our best foot forward, especially in a professional environment. That is not.
I'm still putting my best foot forward in the best way I can.
Okay, well, I'm glad to know you cleaned up all the kids' crafts and after school stuff from the back seat. That's different. I'm glad to know you cleaned your car. That's different than having an unrealistic expectation put on my partner of what are you doing to provide to give me the life I need.
Okay, you're right. But for me, it was one more thing of what are you doing to, again, keep up with the Joneses or put on the perception of wealth. Again, it was just one more thing of what are you doing to create this life that I envision.
I'm sorry that you felt that way about that comment. That was not
Because that comment led into this, was one of the things that led into this fight.
I didn't realize that comment led into this fight.
I've been holding on to that comment.
Oh, great. That comment was about putting our best face forward. That's what that comment was about. You don't have to be rich to be clean and polished.
Of course, and I literally wear suits. I iron my stuff. Yes, I'm clean and polished.
But you show up in a car with crumbs and kid crafts in it.
No.
Okay.
But at the same time, when they see a kid backpack or some pom pom in the back seat on the floorboard, yes, there's an idea that I have kids.
I'll clean your car for you.
I don't need you to clean my car.
No, I will do that for you because I love you.
No. You're getting away from the point. So the point is, though, is your princess syndrome has impacted our lives multiple times.
That's so.
And
it's just.
You finally say you're going to address it, although I think it'll still manifest again in another year or two. And so this is what's hard because it does. It manifests like every few years.
Well, and so here's the thing too, is I think in a relationship, there will always be kind of this like, what are you doing? Right? I think even if we weren't in our dynamic that we're in, like any dynamic we were in, a mixture of I'm working, you're not working, there's a certain aspect of our lives that is unseen to the other person.
Sure.
Right? And so there are always like assumptions made. And this is like a dangerous place to go, right? Is when we start making like, oh my gosh, this person does XYZ, they must not be doing this thing, right?
Yeah.
And that's why it's important, I think, to have the little fights in the moment because it helps reset, recalibrate.
But it's tough because, you know why? Because they seem little to you. But those, like I said, I could tell you all 4 fights. Those are the biggest fights we've had to me. Those are the fights where I'm like, I told you, like those are the fights where I'm like, no, I'm gonna leave. These are the fights where if you're so discontent with me and my provision of our family, then this isn't for me.
Well, and I think that's
and
where...
I told you that early on. I was like, hey, if you're this dissatisfied with me doing all this and you having a pretty cush life, your first year dating, you could leave. There's a door. I'm not forcing you to stay.
Yeah, but
my life is good.
And here's the thing, is you were always welcome to leave, right? And I was always welcome to leave. Like, it's okay. It was my
house.
So here's the thing, is that no one was keeping either of us in this relationship, right?
No.
We are willing participants.
Kids.
Well, but that's, at any point, you can leave, I can leave. And my thought just left my head.
Sorry. So what I was going to say was...
What was I going to say? I guess the thing is that and maybe help me understand this. Why do you feel that way about, like, when we're having those fights? Why do you have such a strong reaction to them?
You know what it is? I've worked so hard for my life, and if you don't like it, why are you here with me? If you don't like everything that I'm doing with my life, because I don't know. I don't. That's the only thing I can come up with. But it's because I've worked so hard so hard to provide for our family. I've worked so hard for my life.
Yeah.
And even like, yes, the layoff like hurt me.
It was rough. It was
hurt me
rough.
to my core because I'd worked so hard.
Yes.
And it hurt me. It hurt me hard.
Yeah.
And I took a not only a substantial pay cut.
Yeah.
Dropped 2 levels in position description levels.
Yeah.
Or title levels.
Yeah.
And so it's hurtful.
And I get that. And I get how my ambition comment was a low blow.
And I'm like, hey, I'm doing my best. Like, will I get back to where? Absolutely, I'll get back to where. I don't have any doubt about that.
Yeah.
But the previous times also, it just compounded. It was just compounding.
Yeah.
And so, and it's tough because like there were years where I was like, man, like, and we've talked about this. Mm-hmm. Are we right for each other?
Yeah.
And because I wasn't fulfilling your expectations.
Well,
And you kept putting all these
so
expectations. Wait. You kept putting all these expectations on me. And I was like, I'm doing my part. Like, what are you doing?
well, and
But
that's
you weren't fulfilling the same expectations you had on me. You were nowhere near coming close to them for
You think
yourself.
so?
I know so, babe, because the first 3 years of our relationship, when you were jumping from job to job within the State Department, you'd had Cece.
But I
You'd
wasn't
had our
jumping
daughter.
from job to job. I was promoting. I was promoting while having 2 children.
Still weren't covering any bills. You weren't paying for anything.
But I also was and here's the thing, right?
And you were hold on, just listen.
Okay.
And you were critical of me for providing for our family.
And I wish I could remember it better.
You
right?
You were there. I mean, there were several things like, oh, there was like
Yeah.
one time when you were like, how come we can't go on a vacation? We deserve a vacation. What are you doing to set us up with a vacation? Not in so few words. It was a long conversation, but
Yeah.
And I was like, then go pay for a vacation. You do it then.
Yeah.
And that goes back to the narrative I've had with you, where it's like, you always tell me to do something for you or for the family when it's something that you could do within your own power. And it frustrates me that I'm like, why don't you do it then? The refrigerator and moving the refrigerator and the dolly. Like you,
Yes.
It took me telling you move the refrigerator then before you decided to move it and realize like, oh shit, I could move myself.
Yeah. And I think unfortunately I don't remember a lot of the specifics that you do.
And that's tough, 'cause,
right?
like they hurt me so much that
Yeah. And
I
think
remember
that's what's hard. Like, because I do know, like, our job styles are different, right?
Yeah.
I have job hopped for promotional opportunities.
Yeah.
But I also, within our first 3 years, we had 2 kids, and I had a lot of time off work. And I think I also had a real, like, lack of sense of control.
Yeah.
Like being pregnant, not being able to work, not being able to do the things that I was able to do. So I had this dichotomy of ideas happening at the same time, where here I have a partner who is challenging me to grow in ways that I've never had anyone challenge me before, which I appreciated and I really liked. At the same time, I'm juggling like this real lack of control, which I think would like, to me, when I'm like, what are you doing? Like, it sounds to me like like I'm feeling out of control. I feel like I have no ability to manage my life right now.
Yeah.
And I think it maybe came out in that way, but I really, unfortunately, like, I just can't remember
And
the details. But so when it comes up now, like, these fresh things, like, I'm always quick to be like, oh, I'm also very critical of myself. And I am someone who will not, I will not share my ideas or my plans with people because I'm afraid of people being critical of me.
Yeah.
Or poo-pooing something that I think is cool.
Yeah.
And that's where, like, we're very different in how we operate in the world that way,
don't
right?
care. Like I'm still hard charging with what I set out to do.
Yeah. And so I think, like, I hate that you take it so, like make or break, right? But I get it. I get it too.
And it's Barry. So, and here's like, it's like, it comes down to like, I'm a problem solution type of guy. See a problem, I want to fix it.
I think a lot of guys are.
And so for me, it's like, if you see a problem and you're so critical of something, then fix it. Be the solution.
But do you realize how revolutionary of an idea that is for someone like the way I was raised, of being like, no, you can't do that. you're not, this is not what you do. And it was always like somebody else has to take care of that.
I get that. I get that, and I recognize that. But you have this double thing where it's like, not only are you up, I think you are now, but you're still fighting it. You're much more solution oriented now, where you're like,
Yes.
if I see a problem,
Yes.
Trent's not the solution. If I can take care of it, I'll be the solution. I think you're that way now.
Yes.
But also, you put the solution burden on me, and if I'm not meeting your unrealized expectations, you put that burden on me also.
I'm sorry you feel that way, because that's not my intent.
But
Nowadays,
it's never your intent.
And
but
I
you
think,
still do it.
But I think too, what we experience now, like I will say, I still fight with a lot of like, yes, when I'm not in my greatest moments, and I think this is true for all of us, we revert back to our earliest and oldest habits.
Yes, 16-year-old Trent. Yes.
Yeah, like 16-year-old Emily.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
I don't want to be the 16-year-old Emily. I don't want those habits.
Yeah.
But it happens. It happens. And obviously, I mean, you're saying a lot of things right now, but obviously, like, you haven't left. We haven't broken up.
No,
like,
obviously.
We work through this.
We
and
absolutely
again,
do work through them.
I think it's because of that basis of friendship, right?
Yeah.
But what I was taught to look for was financial success, like good looks, flashy car, like,
Which is funny because, like, not to brag on your family, but they don't have any of those things.
Well, but that's all the more reason to look for them, isn't it? Because that person is going to pull you out of poverty.
Yeah.
And give you that dream life.
And I do remember something you said that really, like I was like, why would you ever marrying up?
Yes.
Well,
yes.
like, why would you ever say that to your child? Like, you be the person who marries down, like, or you be the person who rises up.
Oh, no.
And then marry your partner.
Marrying up is like a real concept among women, right?
That for me, that it's just
meaning for those of you who might not be familiar with the term, I hope everyone is, but yeah, marrying up in terms of social class.
Economic class, yes.
Yeah. And what, again, like, if the things we're taught to look for as women, finances, all those things I just listed, right? Those are not the things that, life is hard.
Yes.
Those are not the things that get you through the hard times.
No. And life is always hard. That's
life
one thing.
Is
like,
always hard.
Hard.
That is the baseline that people, like, I think in your
life is hard with easy moments.
In your teens and your 20s, you don't understand that life in a relationship, once you settle down, you get your career.
Yes.
It's hard. And you have to have friendship.
Yes.
You have to have good communication.
Yes.
And only then will you, hopefully have a good chance.
And even then, we still up along the way.
Totally. And obviously, we have some very, like, critical fights that are issues we have not fully resolved ourselves.
Yeah.
But
by all means, we're not the, but we do. I feel like we do an all right job.
Right. Well, and that's the thing is, like, because we have the communication.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, we really enjoy each other's company.
Yes.
We'll get through.
And we value our family.
Exactly. And we value what we have built here.
Yes.
And that's how we get through.
Yes.
It is not, finances will come and go. We've seen that in the last 2 years, right?
Yeah.
And I think having grace and compassion for each other, like, when you lost your job, I didn't rub it in your face.
No,
and
not
go
at all.
like,
no.
oh, you da 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 da.
No, not at all. You were pining for me to leave.
I was like, please leave that place. Get out of there. Because it wasn't good for you, right? And as your wife, like, I think have the most highest regard for you. Even if
But I still loved
even
it.
if I poke at you.
I loved that job, and I was good at it.
I know, but I hated seeing you in that job, right? I did not love that for you. And so, and now you're on the upswing, and I'm so happy that you've landed where you are because I see how valued you are there.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry that I get like, come on, like you could be doing XYZ thing.
Yeah.
And again,
It's not always you could be X, Y, Z things. It's also we need we want a kitchen remodel. We can't afford it because you don't make more money.
Did I put that all on you?
You've said that several times.
Recently? Or within the last 10 years?
What do you mean? What is recently? Like in the past month? No, not in the past month. Within the past 2 years? Yes.
I would like to have a little credit here for the growth that I have done.
Yes. You're right. You're right.
Because I don't feel like our dishwasher just broke, right?
Yes.
Thank you for purchasing a new dishwasher.
Yeah. I put money away in the savings. And
yeah,
yes,
but I'm
and we were able
also,
to,
like, it wasn't like, hey, Trent, our dishwasher broke. What are you going to do about it?
no, it was more me saying like, shit, our dishwasher broke. I need to go get a new one.
Yeah, and I appreciate that you did that.
Yeah.
And we didn't even have to have a conversation about it. You just did it, you know. But I appreciate that. I'm just acknowledging. I appreciate that you're taking care of our family. We're doing a lot of talk about like, well, Emily says I don't do this and blah, 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 blah. So I'm acknowledging like, no, I do see what you do.
Thank you.
And I do have gratitude for what you contribute. I do a lot for our relationship too.
Absolutely you do.
And I
don't put those, I don't ever throw your burdens in your face though. That's the difference.
I can't even think of a situation right now, so I won't even try. But it's something that I'm working on.
And I love you. I appreciate that.
And I feel like I've gotten better at it.
Yeah. And you have.
And it is something that I will always, I think, struggle with to some degree because it was so long. It was an unconscious habit.
So what's the first thing you would say to our daughters if you see them getting the princess syndrome? What's the first thing you would say to them?
So I'd be, well, even like down to like if they were going on a date, you know, I would be like, hey, you're going to split this bill with this boy or this girl, whoever they're dating, right?
Yeah.
You're going to split this bill. He's in your same financial situation. You need to not be expecting.
At least offer.
Because that's something like I think back, I'm like, I never paid for a meal on a date, right? Never.
Yeah. Yeah.
And now I feel horrible about that. Like, I think that was a dick move, to be honest, you know? Like, I would sit there and wait for the guy to pay.
Yeah.
But our society has also conditioned men that they have to pay. And so
absolutely.
And they will be silent about that pressure, right? And they might not be able to afford that. But they do it anyways.
Well, hopefully the guy is smart enough not to go to a place that he can't afford to cover.
I know, but still, like, I think about now, if I had a son and a girl was, like, always having him pay, I'd be like, no, get rid of that chick.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
Like,
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. And so, like,
there's a few other comments I would say as a father, but.
Yeah, like, I don't want to hear them.
So anyways.
But so, yeah, so it's like, just setting the expectation with your daughters and your sons, you know, like, this is what an equal partnership looks like. This is what a friendship looks like.
And here's what I would say from my point of view. Be the solution to the problem. If you see a problem, be the solution.
Absolutely.
And so like we saw it with our daughter today where she had her controller and she didn't like it. She's like, Dad, can you take me to the game store so I can buy a new controller and swap out I watched a YouTube video, swap out the controller guts, the motherboard and the wiring,
Yeah.
and then build a new computer. Proud moment.
Yeah.
I was like,
She
absolutely.
took apart that controller.
I went and spent $70 and I could have got a new controller for $30. Spent $70 to get her the new parts, got her the new tool set because it takes micro screws.
Yeah.
And anyways, absolutely. And then what'd she do? She went and fixed it herself.
She
and
took that thing apart.
To a great deal with your help also, because I didn't have the patience for it. I do not like small part electronics. They drive me insane.
Yeah.
But she did it. And so that's one thing I loved about her is I love that we're setting the example for our kids. Like, hey, be the solution to the problem.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And just teaching them that they're capable, you know, instead of putting them up on a pedestal and just like giving everything and like telling them, no, you can't do that. Let me do it for you, you know, or no, you can't do that. They're going to do that for you.
Yeah.
You know, and just even down to like, you know, school, like you have to do well. And I get there's all dimensions of this, right? But at least do well in the things you're good at, you know, like apply yourself.
Yes.
Apply yourself.
Absolutely.
And I think part of also teaching that is like if you become the person you have to become the person you want to be with.
Yes.
And that's, I think, what I didn't understand for a long time.
And that's what I love about you now is that you are growing. You have grown into that one where you're like, hey, if I want something, I'd take care of it.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, oh, then it's my responsibility. Once you tell me that you're taking care of it, I know that then that's my responsibility. Hey, then what do I need to do? I'll do my part to support you. And then you tell me what you see my part is. Mm-hmm. So, all right. I love you, babe.
I love you too. This was a.
We're trudging through it.
Yeah, yeah, and you know, this is one of those things that's not fully resolved, but we're getting there.
I know.
You know, so I love you and thank you for having this conversation with me.
Love you too.
All right.
Thank you all for being with us.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.